Okay, you guys, let's do this. It's going to be so professional. Like, so professional. Here we go. Well, welcome to the Live Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele VanDusen and June Colson, a couple of clean comedians who support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. I hope you're ready. Get set. Let's go. Since podcasts have a catchy tune, we wrote this song for Michele and June. Clean comedians are best friends too. Oh, it's so good. And you never know what they'll say or do. Here we go, sing with me on Live Support. With Michele, who's really short. We'll have a ball. With June, who's really tall. They have fun, interviewing comedians on Live Support. With Michele, who's really short. Now it's time to start Live Support.
The Live Support Podcast is brought to you by the Hot Breath Comedy Network.
Wow, give yourself a round of applause. Woo! That was magic. Welcome to the multi-award winning podcast, Live Support. I'm your host, June Colson, here with Michele with one L, Trisha's sister, Rhonda Colson, Corey's friend. Do not call me Shelly. Michele VanDusen.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing? Look, I see your Lego in the back from the last episode.
That's right. The Starry Night. And today I'm wearing Rhonda Corey's shirt because this is a Rhonda Corey moment because the people that we have on today, this is how I met them, was through Rhonda Corey. So I'm wearing her shirt today.
She's the great connector, isn't she? She is the great connector. It's exciting. So today we're going to do our second Live Support comedy panel. We talked about how we wanted to do a few of these this year. So this is going to be our second one. So I'm super excited about that. It's been an interesting morning. When we do a panel, there's time zones. And so we talked about this time after time. If you're lost, you can look and try to figure out the time zones because they're so confusing. But I'm excited. Michele, that everybody has come together right on time to be able to do our panel today. So Are you good? Are you warm? Are you cozy? It's snowing here.
Yeah, I had to add this extra thing on because I was a little cold just in the preview thing, and I have a hat just sitting arm's length away. I might throw that on too. In fact, you know what? The hat that I was wearing last time with the smiley face, this was also a gift. And I didn't even mention that last time. This is one of my favorite gifts, like the Starry Night and then this. Boom. Okay.
I didn't talk about my gifts. Yes. So last episode, I was wearing a really cute pair of earrings. And today I'm wearing a cute earrings too. I got these for my sister-in-law, Emily, because she's smaller than you are. And apparently these are the full length of her body, these earrings, these big dangly earrings. Yes. Yeah. She couldn't wear them because she's too tiny for them. And so she gave me, I mean, it's good to be an Amazon woman sometimes. I'm just
it's a little giant. There looks like rudders in the air. Like, okay, we're going to bank left. Okay, we're going to bank the right. That's
that's true. Like if these are beautiful earrings, but they do have kind of a rudder look to them. And if Emily was wearing them and they caught wind, like it could have blown her out of Kentucky. Like that's how, but her tininess is my gain. I now have these pretty earrings because
they're beautiful. And I think you did a good job. And that's one of the reasons why I had to, add some girth to my body because I was from the Windy City. Right. And I wanted to make sure I wasn't blown away. So,
Yeah. That's 100% why I'm plus size. Just I'd like to stay grounded. I'd like to stay. My mother was in a car wreck, Michele, when she was younger, and my mom was always the funniest storyteller. Like you never knew where she was going, right? And one day she's like, "Yeah, I remember my doctor telling me, like, Ava, if you'd been a skinny woman, you'd have been dead. It took some meat on my bones to save my life that day." I was like, wow, Mom, we're going to live forever. Like, give me another cupcake. I don't need airbags. Just like,
I'm saved by preservatives. So I'm never dying.
The additives and the preservatives are what saved me. All right. So we don't want to spend a lot of time in whatever banter because today we got a full blown panel. So that's super awesome. So tell us, Michele, who is on the show today?
Oh, my land. You know what? I have failed to make a proper introduction. So our first comedy panel guest has a dry bar special, and she's your friend, my friend, introduced to us by Rhonda Corey. We saw her. We got to go watch her shoot her comedy special out in Utah, which was really cool. So let's welcome.
Wait, don't forget, what tour is she on?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and she's like one of the funniest comedians on the Board Teachers Tour, which is all across America. So make sure you go check that out if you like, I don't know, that kind of stuff. If you're like a teacher, you want to be like a student again in the audience. Is that how that works? I don't know. You know what? I'm not sure how that works, but she's one of the Board Teacher comedians. So go check it out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so this is why I should have written out an intro. I apologize now. Let's welcome to our podcast, Andrea Caspari. Woo, 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 woo.
Yay! Yay! Hello, friends.
Hello, Andrea. Welcome to the show. So far we have been so amazingly professional that you can tell all of your friends you have to go on Laugh Support because they're confused by time zones. They don't introduce you to the other comic on the panel, and they don't do a proper introduction. This is why we win awards, Andrea. This is why we win awards.
I love it. Here, I will give you an award. I will give you an award for great ideas. Isn't that cute? My friend Alma gave this to me. It's like I can't turn it around because I think I'll lose the rocks. But anyway, isn't that cute?
That is adorable. I have one of those, not with the rocks, and like she did such a cool job with those. I have one of those jars. I have pennies in it. I filled it with pennies.
I love it. I wish I had pennies. I'm a comic, so I wish that they gave me money, but that's fine.
It's a light. So for our people listening, that is the coolest. It's like a light bulb jar that has a top that like spins on and off, but like she put stones in it and like a succulent.
It's really, really cute. Yeah, my friend Alma gave this to me for my birthday, I think 2 years ago or so. But anyway, I just saw it. I have it sitting on my desk, and I wanted to say like, oh, if you have a bright idea or something, but then I thought it kind of looks like an award. So here's the award for the cutest, most fun host. Hi.
That is awesome. Andrea, we're so excited to have you on the podcast today. As we talked about before, we're doing our second podcast panel, Laugh Support panel, where we're just going to kind of discuss a couple topics about comedy. So, but before we bring up our next guest, we just got into 2025. And so we talked about like goals and things. So we're going to jump right into that. Have you set some goals for this year? And if so, what you got going on, sis?
Yes, my friends. So I am loving, as you guys said, I'm on the Board Teachers Comedy Tour, and I love it so much. I love everybody I work with. I love seeing all the teachers and their spouses, or I call them support staff.
Yes.
Because they, believe me, my husband supports me at home in every which way. He's wonderful. So you have to have a good spouse or a good support partner to get through the day, sometimes in education, no matter what you're doing. So I'm on the tour, but we have a rotating cast. So I'm on there intermittently. So I do have time for booking. And my new goal is to get onto cruise ships. I am really, really excited and hoping for an in on cruise ships. I have a ton of friends who do it, and I think that would be really fun. And plus, I'm also doing professional development. And I was supposed to speak at a school. They just wanted me to come and entertain at a school on Monday for their back to school breakfast, their after Christmas breakfast. And it was canceled because we had little snowpocalypse, and I haven't been out of the house since last Friday.
Wow.
Yeah, we had 8 to 12 inches. We had 8.5 in my backyard.
Oh, wow. We had ice and a little bit of snow, and I did a Marco Polo to one of my friends because I went all the way down the end of my driveway to get my trash can last night. And I was like, hey, if my husband's out of town, so if I, fall on the steps or whatever, if you don't get a Marco from me in like 30 minutes, then I'm dead in a ditch somewhere like my mother said I would be. And she replied back, Andrea, my husband and I just watched a documentary on immigrants who took 2 different boats and arrived in America with $17 in their pocket, and they survived June. I think you can get your trash can.
What did we do before cell phones, right? We made it in to Ellis Island. Okay.
I got no sympathy, but I sympathize for do you love the snow days? Are you happy to be snowed in a little bit?
I'm happy to be snowed in. I've been subbing a little. We've been on hiatus from the tour for a couple of months, so I have been subbing, and so, but I've missed out on subbing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I wasn't going to sub Monday anyway because I had that huge gig, and I was super excited to go to Adrian High School and make super fun jokes and entertain them. They're going to bring me back. They're rescheduling, so. But man, it really does eat into, plans, like leaving the house. So my husband and I have been going a little cabin fever stir crazy together.
Oh yeah. It would make me nuts. So, well, I love your goals. I love that. I think a lot of times people don't realize if they see somebody on a tour, they think, oh, well, that's all they can do because they're on this tour. And so they're booked out for the whole year and that's it. And it's like, no, especially if you're in a rotating cast that's different groups in different areas of the country at different times, then there are these time periods that you do have open and you're available to, develop. And I think that's a good idea too, because, this tour may last another 5 years. It may last another 30 years. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's always good, I think, to diversify in almost every area of your life. So to have different areas that you're able to jump into, that's such a great goal. And they would love you on cruise ships. So I have a feeling we're going to be watching that unfold as well in 2025.
Thank you. Awesome. I really, really hope so. I'm just trying to bring, build up my corporate and my college, not college necessarily. I don't relate to the college kids. They're adorable. I can relate to high school somehow. I think because they're paid to, or, I'm paid to do that. But for some reason, I can't really, I went back to my old college a few years ago and tried to entertain and they're like, who's this old lady? So anyway, but no, but corporate is so much fun. Cruise ships are so much fun. I'm loving the tour. And at one point, there was one summer when I had 60 shows straight, but I mean, so it just totally depends on the schedule. But right now it's more intermittent. So I'm available, friends. Let me know. And I love clubs too. I love doing fun clubs.
Coming down to Tulsa in what, next week, a couple weeks from now?
In a couple weeks. So Sunday, January 19th, we are going to do, this is the first time I've ever been there, to the Tulsa Looney Bin. And my friend said that he thought I'd already been there, but that was for a couple weeks and I'd been committed. But that was not the, that was a different Looney Bin. So anyway, this is the club. But I know, literally he made that joke. So we'll, if it didn't work, then blame him. So I'm going to be there with several other teacher friends. Shauna Blake, who is from Tulsa. Do you know Shauna Blake?
I do. Yeah.
Awesome. She's cool. And then my friend Stephen Taylor is so funny. He's from Kansas City and he's doing his own kind of the Unteachables tour. He's kind of created his own tour. He's not on ours, so he's doing his own. It's cool. Anyway, so we're going to be there. And the cool thing is the next day is Dr. King's birthday, the day off. So the teachers can come out and they can sleep in. So they can stay out, have some fun, and they can sleep in. But it starts at 6 p.m. anyway. So
it's good scheduling.
Yeah,
that's great scheduling. And it's a great club. You're going to absolutely love the Looney Bin. It's small, it's tight. You can have like 300 people or something there. Like, it's a really good club, great staff. So you're going to have a great time. So there you go. Come on out.
Yeah. If you're home, you got to check her out, Michele. I get to watch Andrea actually at the board teachers tour. She was kind enough to set me up with a couple of tickets. And it was the coolest thing about it was that, one, I got to gift a teacher friend of mine who had never really been to like anything like that type of show before. I got to gift her a ticket, set with me. And then I sat right next to one of Andrea's students. Yeah. And when I tell you, like, we sat down and my friend said, now, which one is it on the tour that's your friend? And I said her name and the girl grabs my arm and goes, you know her? She's the best teacher I ever had in my whole life. And I'm telling you, this girl was shaking when Andrea came on stage, nearly crying, laughing. She's like, you don't understand. She's the best teacher that ever existed. And I got to capture a couple of pictures at the meet and greet afterwards of this young lady just embracing Andrea. And just it was the sweetest moment. And so it was just a reminder, not just how funny Andrea is, but what an amazing impact that you had on your students and how much you were loved. Awesome. And this girl, like this made her life right here, being able to sit and watch you, not just because she said, she would do fundraisers and I would get to see her, do these fundraisers, but then to be in the magnitude of a Sky Pack theater with about packed with people, and just the magnitude of like from what she probably saw you on, certain stages before. You just can't compare to being in a room like that. So it was such a blessing to be a part of that. So thank you again for, letting me be a part of that audience that night and see you do your thing.
Oh my gosh, you just made my whole day, my whole week. Thank you so much for being there and for reminding me of that beautiful moment with Peyton Osborne, one of my favorite students of all time. She has a heart of gold, and it was really cool to see her and to see you and to meet your friend.
Yeah, that was awesome. All right. So we have another member of the panel today.
Yay.
We do.
So, June, because we have another member of the panel and I totally botched up this first intro, I'm going to let you do the intro and all the things, and I'll just pop our guest up. Okay. So, June, who else is part of our panel today?
Michelle, I've told you to never put me on the spot. I don't know this guy. Like, are you kidding me? I know nothing about. No, okay. This is one of my favorite comedians in the entire universe. That's all you really need to know. I have had the opportunity to, I think 3 times now, get to host the Christian Comedy Association conference with this guy. He has a dry bar comedy special. He has been a stand-up comedian, a improv. I got to learn some improv skills from our amazing guest. So please welcome to the Laugh Support Podcast, our next comedy panel, Brian Kohatsu.
Thank you. June, that was lovely. This is what I expected from Michelle. This was going to be Michelle's introduction for me. It was going to go like this. Next. And that was going to be it. We're just going to pop me up, and then that would be it.
Well, Brian, first of all, I want to thank you just right out of the gate for agreeing to be on this panel where we are going to do a deep dive into what it's like to be a female in stand-up comedy. And I would like to get very specific about some specific issues with some specific men that I specifically want you to comment on today. So thank you for being on the panel, Brian Kohatsu.
You laugh, but I can help. Anyway. First of all, you guys have inspired me. So Andrea showed her like the cute little light bulb thing. And then of course, June was like, of course I have something just like that. So I quickly made, because it's arts and crafts now, I made this crystal skull with a flashlight in it. And I have pennies in there too. So
cool.
I'd like to share my time on how to make this. So first of all, go to the store.
So now we're gonna do a Rude People podcast and arts and crafts with comedians. That's what we're gonna do.
And there's got to be a cooking segment, because I like it when they're like mashing everything together and they run out of time and they go, "Oh, it should look like this," and then it's done.
Yeah.
Just start there. You never finish it. I mean,
that's right. That's right. Well, listen, I almost messed up with Andrea. I was like, it's 2025. I almost said 2005. That's where I am in my brain today. We are into 2025. I'm not an organized person with comedy goals, but we were excited to ask you guys today, do you have any goals? Have you set anything, in motion for 2025, Mr. Kohatsu?
I have a lot, but I will only touch on a few. So I've got a comedy special that I'm working on right now, which hopefully, I don't know when I'm going to have it done, because other things are going on in my life, which is making things difficult. My wife had rotator cuff surgery, so I'm like her literal right arm 24 hours a day. So working on that. I will take that video, I will pull off that audio, and they'll make that a comedy album too. So it'll be video and then a CD-ish, digitally. Not selling CDs anymore. Then I'm planning on writing a comedy book, which is more like a comedy essay book kind of thing. So I got that rolling, and then I'm still teaching at the club too much, and then getting out on the road as usual. So those are my goals, just to kind of get the side projects going so I can then get on the road and have some fun and promote. So comedy special and a book. That's pretty awesome. Tell us the club, Brian. Tell us, do you mind to tell us what the home club is and where you've been teaching? My home club is Stir Crazy Comedy Club. I am there 24 hours a day, it feels like. Teaching my stand-up class, teaching my improv class. I might do a sketch class this year. That'll be new for me too. I'm trying to do that. Kind of just, I'm a part owner of the club, but I'm not a manager. That makes sense, but I'm still there all the time. So,
yes.
It's fun. And I say that smiling through the pain. It's great. It's great. So
Yes.
I highly recommend it.
You highly recommend being part of Stir Crazy because Andrew's going to be at the Looney Bin. You're at Stir Crazy. I think this is fabulous, kind of a thing. Now, I know you said you're going to do a special. I brought your shirt. I was going to wear it.
You were wearing Rhonda's shirt, not mine, but okay, you have it. That's good.
I was wearing Rhonda's shirt because this is how I met all of you, right? Through Rhonda, and then I had your shirt here. You all keep your t-shirts in plastic bags, right? So it's
sealed.
Yeah, you can't see the price that I'm selling it on Amazon.
What's the bid up to 5? Is it $5?
No. Should I hold out till 5? I think
I'd hold out to 5.
You told me 10. You said 10, Michelle.
That's right. 10. It's 10 going. Sold, Andrea. But I do have a sneak peek. Is it okay if I show a sneak peek of your special?
We do have a very small, I'm going to call it a teaser.
A teaser.
That's exactly what it is. Sure.
Okay. All right.
We have a clip.
So let's play the teaser.
That picture was taken during that joke. I don't know if you know that, but now you know. It looks like some kind of cool Bruce Lee thing, but it's not. I don't know what that's.
That's it. That's all you get.
Wow. Okay. All right.
I am just so proud that Michelle played a video clip. Like, we are like technology geniuses right now.
That's why Michelle and I met 2 hours early to get that 30 seconds done smoothly.
Right now, that's what y'all were in here early so that Michelle could learn to play a clip on our podcast.
Michelle did great. Yep. Michelle is actually concerned now that every guest now is going to want to show a clip.
Yeah, and I don't know how he put it on there. So like he had to rush over, go get in front of an audience on a stage, have a camera ready, like 4 cameras. Like he did all these things really quickly.
Very quickly.
Just to give us not even a joke.
That's what happens. That's what happens when you know people, Michelle. You get things done.
Yeah. And this is why we love Brian Kohatsu. Okay, so let's start the panel discussion. Let's hit the topics. Okay. So we have different people that listen, some that are already comedians, some people that are just interested in comedy and getting started. So one thing that we want to talk about today is your comedic voice. So when I first got into comedy, that's one of the phrases. That's one of the things you hear all the time. You got to find your voice, find your voice, find your voice. But nobody really tells you how to do it or what it is, or anything beyond just find your voice. So Andrea, I'm gonna start with you when it comes to finding your voice. First of all, have you found your voice? And if you have, how do you know you found it? What is it? Let's talk about it.
I love that you brought this up because for years and years and years, I was trying to find my voice. And I had a friend named Brad Meehan, and he was such a good writer. He's still alive. He's just not doing, I'm speaking of him in past tense. But he got married and he has 6 kids and, he's doing his thing. But anyway, I wrote with him and I loved his voice. And a lot of my jokes were in his voice, because we would edit and we would sit together and, play off of one another. And my husband finally realized just a couple of years ago, he said, you've kind of, shaken Brad off. And now we really finally hear Andrea because, the writing was always there, but it was really hard for me to figure out who am I and what am I saying. And I think once you find your voice, you realize it doesn't matter what you say. People can tell, they can identify that it's you saying it. I think that is the voice, right? So if I wrote down or if I played the cadence of somebody saying something, you could identify Chris Rock saying that, Roseanne saying that, right? That's a Robin Williams, that's a George Carlin, right? It's when your voice, when you say something, you're saying it in your voice, so it's going to be funny. Because it's your attitude, it's your perspective, it's your style. What do you think?
So I think like consistency, do you think is important when you're trying to discover your voice? Like once you find yourself really consistently speaking in a certain way, Do you think that that helps kind of identify who you are? Like it's very consistent how you hear, as you said, Chris Rock or, other comedians when they speak. There's a consistency to how they deliver their material. Yeah.
Yes, it's the consistency, it's the way that they deliver it. And the reason that it takes so many years for you to find your voice, because you would think, right? I mean, wouldn't a person starting at their first open mic say, well, this is my voice, right? This is how I see things. This is how I'm seeing it. But it's when you become comfortable, like as Leslie Norris Townsend has always said, say it into the mic. When you say it you have to say it into the mic. I can talk into my mirror all day. I can tell my friends all day. But when you say it into the mic, you speak to an audience. It is that consistency. It's that stage time. And when you finally just feel super comfortable and the way that things come out are it's very consistent and it's very you. When you find that's how you find yourself. But it really is all about stage time and it's about reworking it. It's about constantly trying to cut out any of the extra and get to the funny.
So Brian, you're in a comedy club all the time. You're watching different people. You're definitely watching people in different development stages. Mm-hmm. Have you identified or seen somebody like come into that where you're like, like they found their voice, or have you found your voice?
First of all, I wish you wouldn't remind me of all that stuff. Anyway, I'm in the club too much. No. Yeah, I mean, slowly you see people discover their voice and figure it out in that way. Let me take a step back and just say that when I was learning improv, there was a book they had us read, which was Truth in Comedy. Okay. The truth in comedy is always there. It always exists. Okay. And how that translates to stand-up is a lot of times when you see somebody so desperately trying to perform their act that they've written, and it's just this kind of moving along, and then they bomb. And then when they bomb for that split second, they go, I don't know. I'm stupid. I'm young. I don't know what I'm talking about. Everybody laughs at that because it's a truthful moment, and that's really who they are. So in terms of finding your voice, it's everything Andrea said, but it's also the understanding so much of who you are and how to present who you are with that particular voice, and understanding the things that you want to talk about. Because I feel like young comics, especially, I'm going to talk about whatever's in front of me and I'm going to write a bunch of jokes about that thing. And it's like, well, is that interesting to everybody? Or are you just so trying to find something to talk about suddenly? What is interesting to you and all that? What is your voice in terms of the things that you want to share? I mean, you get a lot of like political comics want to talk about that, or, there's all kinds of subject matters people want to talk about. And sometimes you can feel that a comic is talking about a subject matter they don't care. Yeah. I always find it interesting, like television shows, comics will talk about television shows. And to me, not everybody watches the same shows anymore because we have all the streaming, platforms that you and I none of us are watching the same TV show. So you must care about an opinion enough about that. Do we really care that you're trying to find Bigfoot, or is it just a joke? I mean, what do you really want to talk about? There's something else in there that still needs to come out. So it is a process that takes some time. Some people get it very quickly. Most people don't, I would say. It takes a little bit of time to do that. I heard Colin Quinn. This was great. Colin Quinn about 10 years ago did the opening remarks at the Montreal Just for Laughs festival. And he says, he goes, everybody wants to know when you find your voice. So if you're just starting out, it's 5 years. It's 5 years. And if you've been doing this, if you've been doing it 5 years, it's 10 years. And if you've been doing this 10 years, it's 13. Okay, nobody knows, and it's so true. And it's so funny because, and you kind of asked that of me. I feel like I'm just now kind of coming into my own in terms of really figuring out who I am and what I want to talk about. Yep. Because prior to that, it was just Dancing Monkey. He's still going to get Dancing Monkey, but just a little bit different, as I think.
So let me ask you, Andrea. So do you think, here's a couple of things, just looking at you and your kind of what I know of your journey. Do you think your voice is as important as your comedy? And do you think once you find your voice, you find your audience? Because you're clearly in an arena that I believe they come because that is your audience who loves your voice. Yeah.
I absolutely think that once you find your voice, it's easier to find your niche. And once you find your, as people say, your niche or your niche, right? Yeah. Judy Carter is my mentor. And I don't know if you guys have read the Comedy Bible. Have you guys read the Comedy Bible?
I love when people assume that I read a whole book. That makes my heart.
Have you read the cover?
Part you said cover to cover?
I've read it. I mean, I just asked June if she's read the cover.
I'll start there.
The cover.
I've heard of it anyway.
I have.
By the way, June, if you look behind Andrea, those are books, June. That's what a book looks like.
I am so sorry. I do want to apologize. This is what an English teacher's office looks like. It's not correct. They're all double back. Like they're all like those are double road. So you can take those out and there are more behind. It's not right. We'll get that together for the next Zoom.
Show off.
I know I can read. I'm showing off.
Hey, she's got book money, so
she does.
Hey,
yeah.
You know, if you tour a couple of years, you can get some more books. Yeah.
That's right.
Here's the thing, guys. Everything is about. The reason I'm trying to give Judy Carter a shout out is because A, she's my mentor. B, the Comedy Bible is amazing. Not more amazing than the first Bible. I understand that, but she's really up there. Let me tell you guys. The whole idea, she's very fascinated by the fact that I have found my niche, and this is what it's all about, guys. Once you find your voice, you find your people, and that is when you can that's when people will come to see you. That's when people will they want to hear what you have to say on a topic that matters to them. Because growing up in the Midwest, I will walk into any club, and there will be 300 people sitting there waiting for me to make them laugh. I don't know what kind of day they've had. I don't know what their political stance is. I don't know if they think women are funny or men are funny or not, or if they even think comedy is funny. But you have to find a universal premise and you have to relate to them. But the cool thing about touring for teachers is that almost every single person in that building wants to hear about education. Not the whole thing. My entire act is not just education. It's not. But on tour, these are all people where they understand the premise so well that you can dive even deeper. That's why having an audience, your niche, that's why it's so important to find your people. Because so I might say, oh my gosh, can you believe we have to go to IEP meetings? Everybody in this room, everybody on this Zoom might go, what in the heck's an IEP meeting? So I would have to spend some time with that premise and tell you, oh, the individual educational plan, special ed meeting, blah, blah. If you don't know it, now you do. But then I've spent so much time doing that, I can only do a surface joke. Funny, moving on, right? Otherwise, it's just too much. But if you have a room of 2,000 people, not 2,000, let's be honest, a couple hundred or whatever, if you have a room of people who go, I already know what that is, let's get into the funny, then you can even delve deeper. And that's when you really find your voice.
Yeah. It makes me think about like when you are standing around with your friends, right? And you're doing the jokes or your family members. And all I got to do is like bring up Mama Ava and my niece's wedding. And everybody knows that she had her walker and dropped tube socks in the middle of a wedding as she was pushing her walker down the aisle, right? I don't have to go into the complications of what Mama Ava was, what Mo was to our family. Like, and in that space, I think when you find your audience, when you have your voice and they already have the background story, it does get to be so natural of like the friend conversation where it
becomes inside jokes.
Yes.
Because amongst your friends, you have the inside jokes. Like you said, June, everybody knows the premise. You just, boom, it's just punchlines and everybody has a great time. Whereas in Andrea's situation with a room of teachers that all know it, you can skip over the explanation and you can go right for it. And then it's a lot of fun because they're like, it's me. I do that, kind of thing. And I've been there. I've had that student or I've had that experience. So yeah, because, we all suffer with the setups are always too long. So it's even great.
Yes, just like you're saying, you cut out. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. No, you cut out the setup. When you can cut out the setup, just like, and that's why a lot of people think, they call it water cooler funny. A lot of people think they're super funny at work because you're like, oh my gosh, Janet in accounting, and everybody knows, right? That's Mama at the wedding. That's me at the IEP meeting.
Don't get me started about Janet.
Right.
Yeah. So everybody's already giggling, and now you get to the funny. Now you can do punchline. Everybody already was on board. And so that's why finding your niche, I always say niche because that's the right way to say it. Sorry. But anyway, but that's why finding your people is so important. So, but that's why a lot of people think that they're super funny at work, and they probably are, but then they try to get up on stage and it's like, oh wait, I have 100 people who don't know me. And they don't know Janet in accounting. They don't know Mama. They don't know IEP meetings.
Yeah.
So you have to, and then you just spend so much time giving that background, like Brian was saying.
That's where you see, like at the open mics, it's the guy who's like, man, you're so funny at work. You should go do this. Okay. And you go in there like, all right, with this guy. And he did, it's like, what are you talking about? I saw a guy one time, it was he worked at like a Jiffy Lube or someplace like that, change in oil. And it was a story about a guy who came in with a tire. But it was one of those things where it kind of was set up. It wasn't set up, but he was so into it. Everyone was like, okay, we're going to just enjoy this because you're enjoying it so much.
Yes.
But he went up there and told the story. His one table's laughing really hard at it. And then after that, it was done. And it's like, I'm sure I never saw him again. I mean, but, he got up there, he did his thing. But, those 5 that kind of quote whatever dared him to do it, is somewhat funny once you started figuring out, if you're really listening to the story, trying to figure out what the story was, but you too much inside information. I would kill to watch an inside joke comic just goes up there and does punchlines based on things we don't know.
Oh, that's an amazing concept.
Like Janet.
It doesn't work. Just so you guys know, it just doesn't work. It's a dead room the entire time, and then you won't leave crying. But go ahead. You were saying about Janet?
Yeah, Michelle may have had that experience. She experimented with that concept, Brian. It didn't go well, so we're going to move on from.
I'm going to do 45 minutes on Janet.
Okay, here's two more thoughts I have about finding your voice. One, here's an area where I've struggled. There's been a couple of areas where people have tried to lead me into because they're like, oh, okay, here's a great example. I did an event and there was some critique, right? It was kind of a teaching comedy thing going on. And I had this person go, oh, Bowling Green, Kentucky, that's where you're from. Bowling, man, that should be it, man. You should capitalize on that. You should be that in Bowling Green. And our mayor is this, and, with that Southern accent, whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to be the Bowling Green, Kentucky girl, you know what I mean? And then other people are like, oh, the firefighter, your son's a firefighter and your husband's a firefighter. Like that could be the area that you're in. Or, it's kind of that resistance of like being pushed into a voice. I think that, it could have been, Andrea, that you were like, I love teaching, but that's not what I want to do jokes about all day long. Like for comedy, for me, I'd rather, there's this other side of me that I want people to know about. That's really more me. Yes. Right. And so I think that, have you all experienced that in your comedy where someone maybe tried to plant seeds of a voice that just didn't settle or feel right to you?
Well, I can tell you that if you look at my dry bar, the last 7 minutes are comedy, and that was it out of 25. I didn't even brand myself necessarily as a teacher comic. I was a comedian who also taught. And so it was only until I had a friend, David Siebold, who's the headliner of our tour. He got me into the tour. And so I've been doing this since July 2022. And they started March 2022, and then he brought me in July, and we've never stopped. And I've basically been writing on stage. I mean, I write beforehand, of course, but so much of it comes out on stage or is developed on, during the tour. So now I have a good 30 or 40 minutes of just completely 100% comedy, teacher comedy. But I also have my other hour of not just teacher stuff, because I've been doing it for 20 years and I happen to be a teacher, but I have so much other stuff going on that I love to joke about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually it was a reverse to your question. I basically, once we found the niche, I had to jump in and write more jokes that filled the tour requirements.
Yeah. So it's almost like you can actually have two different voices, depending on who your audience is. I mean, same person, but you're able to have the proper voice for the proper room. Because one of my other things that I had written down about voices is that like being comfortable, and I'll throw this towards you, Brian, like just being comfortable that like maybe your voice isn't for everybody. Like, I mean, I just did a gig where 100% my voice was not the voice that needed to be in that room. Nobody cared about my voice or who I was. There's nothing about me that was even remotely interested. Like I would say 80% of the room, 20% of the room loved me. And the 80%, it was just a space that it was like, I wasn't aware of the space that I was going into. And what I was about to be dealing with. But it's okay once you find your voice. The reality is your voice isn't for everyone, because everybody doesn't, as Andrea was saying, like have the inside joke information, right?
Yeah.
Hi, me full screen. I'm supposed to talk now? No. I will say this, that I know that, so if you're speaking to your niche,
good job.
I say niche now. Anyways, if you're saying, I've learned a lot on this show. I'm taking notes. Okay. No, if you're talking to your niche, that's one thing, right? Because you know everybody's kind of there for you. You know, and I do a lot of churches, and I do a lot of clubs, I do casinos, I do a lot, anything that starts with a C. I basically do churches, clubs, casinos, corporate. Okay. So with that, you have everybody from all these different backgrounds. You're not going to hit everybody. There's no way you can hit everybody and speak directly to, I mean, sometimes you do, some subject matters do hit it, some of them don't. So my act is so kind of like diversified over all the other, me as a dad, me as a husband, me as a, you know, my father's son, being Japanese, not being looking Japanese, whatever it is. But trying to add enough variety to try to hit everybody is difficult too, because you're like, okay, this plays to this group, but it's also one of those things where you have to try to look at your audience, identify your audience, because not only likes and dislikes, you're talking old versus young, right? You know, all that. Corporate world's different, whatever they do for a living, and you're the outsider now coming in. It's all trying to be a chameleon for wherever you're at. I know for me, like if I like in the clubs, you know, really the only club I will do is Stir Crazy. I don't really do too many clubs, but when I do, I know the late show skews younger. They're always younger. So I change my act to being more, my first line is always like, hey, who knew your dad was going to be here? That must stink. You know what I mean? So they laugh, they know I know that I'm older than them or whatever. Yeah. It's just like, okay, let's go. And then if I have to, I call the audible to just point out young people, whatever, like you're not getting this or whatever, or, you know, whatever it might be. And just have fun with that at the moment in the room and try to figure it all out as we go along. So, yeah, it's kind of, you gotta have your little bag of tricks all the time and always writing, but identifying your audience and trying to figure out what they want, what they like, and trying to at least appease the masses. You know, I did radio doing comedy first, and that's one of those, you don't see who you're talking to, right. You don't know who you're hitting, and you try to hit something for everybody, you know. So it's interesting. So June, listen up. So the more well-read you are, in a literal sense, it helps. It does help if you can speak to different, you know, a lot of different subject matters. But again, still understand from your perspective of who you are and finding your voice that way. Ooh, I tied that all back. Yay me.
Look at you bringing it all back around together. Michele, do you feel like you've found your voice? Like, are you in a place yet where you found your voice, or has your voice changed over the years? It's a podcast, Michele. You can't mime and pretend your mic is off.
I like that she still muted it.
That was
she's really method. I'm going to mute it and pretend not to talk.
You know, yeah, it was muted, wasn't it? No, I have no idea who I am. So how do I figure it out? Like, that was actually going to be my question to you guys, is how do you find who you're supposed to be? Because if you're exploring all these different areas, you know, you're trying to do a one-liner, you're trying to hit the news, you know, headlines, you're supposed to try. How do you actually end up finding what you want to, what your voice naturally is? How do you go about doing that? Because Andrea, you said the last 7 minutes of your dry bar ended up being the the niche that you need to be. So how do you find that?
So when I prepared my dry bar, the 25 minutes, only the 7 minutes of the teaching stuff really felt relevant to me. I really wanted to focus on being married and plus size shopping and, just joking around about my husband and my life. And so the thing about voice, just kind of like how Brian was saying, it's all about audience adaptation, right? Because you have to figure out who am I speaking to. And I know that a lot of corporate gigs are like, if they're not teachers, they, the bank guild doesn't care so much about the IEP meeting, right? So I have to figure it out. And then I do find, sometimes I'll ask them, who can I make fun of? Who's it okay? And they're like, Janet in accounting. Right. So then I'm like, okay. And so then I'm able to say Janet in accounting and the whole room dies. Mm-hmm. So the number one rule for corporate is get in and figure out who you cannot make fun of and who you can, and what are some of their inside jokes so that you can become one of them pretty quickly. But when it comes to finding your own voice, it's all about time and figuring out what you feel super comfortable talking about and what's really relatable. Because once you come up with a universal premise, then you can add your own voice to that. So everybody, and not everyone, but people are in relationships or they have spouses. But what makes that uniquely you? Like, what's your take on that? Everybody's going to talk about dating. Everyone's going to talk about marriage and parenthood. What's your take on that? How does a Michele attitude towards it sound?
Yeah, I don't know Janet. So,
oh, you got to know Janet.
If you don't know Janet, I don't know how you're even making it through the day.
I could tell you stories about Janet.
How do you do that?
No, June, you said that, you get people coming up to you saying, oh, you should talk about this. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's a one phrase I think we all hate. You should. Yeah. Okay. So, which I love. I get the dumbest you shoulds. Like, I do voices and stuff like that. You should do more of that. Okay. So 30 minutes of me going is not going to be great on my throat, and it's not going to work, But a lot of times too, I get the you should, and it's really racial. It's like, okay, you're not listening to what I just did, But I think deep down, we all kind of know, Michele, what it is that I think we want to talk about, because the minute you get the you shoulds, if it's like one of those, yeah, I can see that. Or if it's like, no, that I don't want to talk about that. You kind of already know. It's rooted inside you. It's just a matter of, sometimes you do a joke and then like audience doesn't laugh and you go, that was more for me. Because I think that's funny. Yes. I think that's the root of where that kind of starts from. You got to figure out like, those are the kind of things I wanted to talk about. Or that was one just for me, but what's one for me and them together? Or what can I share about me and my life that is going to be interesting to them? Because that's the worst thing is just like, I'm going to tell you about myself. They don't. Unless it's funny, they're not going to care. They're not laughing. They're not that invested in you, at that moment. Yeah. I don't, not to say this badly about all of us, but we're not selling tickets. Nobody's coming to see just us. Andrea maybe, but I'm just saying, but you know what I mean? The masses are just basically who's here tonight or whatever. I came with a friend. So you have to find a way that is yourself, introduce yourself and talk about the things you want to talk about in a relevant way to everybody. That kind of makes us all go, oh, we're all human beings. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. If I can identify as the cool uncle to the really young kids, I'm not your dad, I'm your cool uncle, so let's just hang out for a while, then they're all fine with it. If it's just like, I'm gonna tell you this is how life is, then they're gonna be like, whatever. Right. So kind of, and it's not changing who you are, it's just finding that different aspect of who you need to be for different audiences, and maybe it's attitude too. I have a friend of mine, Eric O'Shea, very funny comic, America's college comic. He does, college kids are all 18 years old getting into the university for the first time. You talk softer to them because they haven't had a lot of life experiences, and you talk about generalized things. Then he did a 55 plus with me, and he changes his attitude. Yeah, man, it's more angry. You know what I hate about getting older? And then he goes that way, and he changes. And either one, he gets a standing ovation either way, and it's disgusting. So, these are the people I hang out with, the standing O people. Anyway,
we dove into a lot of hurt that Brian has experienced. Andrea, you had a thought.
Brian, that was great. Can you take a picture of me in the headliner?
Right.
You're Asian. You know how to work a camera, right? Okay, whatever.
I was going to say, Brian, I tried that voice one time. You said 30 minutes, your throat got sore. I tried it once and they were like, no.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I've never done that voice before. Andrea, you had a thought. I saw the light bulb. Come on. Okay, go ahead. There it is. She lit up.
There you go.
I did. So no, I didn't mean to interrupt. I forgot that there were other people here. No. No. Here's the thing, guys. I am proudly part of an ensemble, and I have and I make no bones about the fact that they're coming to see the board teachers, plural. And I am so fine with that. So I'm still working out my own voice, and I'm still working on getting my own audience to come out. I do really well with teacher crowds. And then I still do okay, with the not older crowds per se, but like middle age who they are married and they understand that kind of thing. I'm just really lucky that I found that niche and that I'm on that tour with the teachers, because a lot of times I'll do that teacher material just in a regular crowd. It'll hit somewhat, but not as, not the way, and I'm like, dang, okay. So I am still working on finding my own voice and what I want to talk about when I'm not just talking about teaching. Still, it's just a work in progress.
I think a lot of it, I think it's personality driven. First of all, you got to be likable.
Yeah.
If they don't like you for whatever reason, it's an uphill battle anyways. So as long as you're likable, they're willing to listen to whatever you're willing to tell them at that point, which is truly yourself, your personality, your truth and comedy, all that kind of stuff. So, and Michele, you're bubbly. You just be Michele. You talk about whatever you want to talk about, Michele.
I'm going to be bubbly. Okay. So let's talk about my dead mom. Anyway, no.
Michele, let's talk a
lot
about
that, Michele. See, you sold it. Like, let's talk about
I take her with me everywhere I go. Oh, she's leaking. No.
Her mom is, she talks about her mom a lot, and she does bring her mom to different places. And her name was Joe, and she keeps her ashes in a cup of Joe. So I'm just saying, there's a lot of Michele, that kind of voice is, there's a very specific audience for that type of humor, Michele. No, I think, okay, so we're going to move on to the second part of our topics today, but I think just a little bit of recap is the reality that even veteran comedians have been doing this for a very long time. That Brian doing the joke before about 5 years. Okay, now 5 more years. That not to beat yourself up if you're a comedian who has been at it for 5 years, or you're just getting started and you haven't quite found exactly what your voice is yet. I think what we're finding is it's important to be authentic. It's important to be likable. It's important for you to like what you're talking about, because if you're not enjoying it and someone pushes you into be the Bowling Green comic and you're trying that, it's probably not going to work out very long, because it's not who you are. But you are unique. Everybody does have a unique voice, unique perspective. And I think one of the things that we've referred to, and one of the best pieces of advice I received in the beginning was like, when you are telling your personal stories of your personal life experience, generally you don't have to worry about overlapping someone else's material. Like for me, I would hear from people about my dad hot dog, and my dad hot dog is somebody who is very unique and funny, and my upbringing is not like everybody else's. And so I know I'm comfortable talking about my dad. I know people enjoy hearing about him, but it's just giving yourself time, giving yourself a break, understanding it's evolving. This is something that develops, and what my voice is right now potentially will change as, I'll be 50 this year, so in my 50s, I'm sure I'm going to have a different perspective than in my 40s. And, and my son's about to get married. So understanding that like our perspective and our voice can evolve, and not to just beat yourself up about it, have fun with it, experiment, and, and just see what might develop. Okay. So our second topic that we're going to dive into here real quick is, pardon this interruption, but this is June and Michele from the future. And this is a 2-part comedy panel with Brian Kohatsu and Andrea Caspari. And so we just did part 1. So Michele, what do we need now?
Well, I need to make sure that in between time that they go ahead and check out their websites, AndreaCaspari.com and BrianKohatsu.com. And so while they're doing that, then they should also check and see where they can watch us on YouTube, and then also listen to us wherever podcasts are listened to, right? So there you go.
So part 1, and now we get ready to do part 2. Come back and see us next week, y'all. As Junebug always says, Jesus and Junebug loves you. And goodbye, Michele.